Ketika aku ngomongin soal kejahatan dan penderitaan di dunia, itu ada beberapa teman-teman yang bilang bahwa kamu tuh nggak bisa ngomongin kejahatan karena dalam dunia ateistik, kejahatan itu tidak ada. Dalam dunia ateistik, itu tidak ada yang namanya objective morality. Sehingga kamu itu nggak bisa ngomongin bahwa nih ada loh kejahatan yang objektif di dunia gitu loh. Lanjut, argumen mereka adalah evil actually proves God. Ini seperti yang Frank Turek katakan ya, atau William Lane Craig katakan, atau beberapa YouTuber lain.
Moral evil actually proves the existence of God. For we may argue in the following way. Premise 1, if God does not exist, objective moral values do not exist. 2, evil exists. 3, therefore objective moral values exist. Some things are evil. Therefore, God exists.
Kejahatan sebetulnya membuktikan keberadaan Tuhan. Karena supaya ada objective evil, God must exist. Supaya ada kejahatan yang objektif, itu tuh Tuhan mesti ada gitu. Jadi dalam argumennya tuh, kalau misalkan Tuhan itu tidak ada, dalam ketiadaan Tuhan, itu tidak ada teman-teman kejahatan yang objektif. Jadi seorang ateis, seorang naturalis itu nggak semestinya ngomongin soal kejahatan yang terjadi di dunia, karena untuk ngomongin kejahatan kamu tuh mesti ngomongin Tuhan dulu gitu. Kamu mesti percaya dulu sama Tuhan gitu loh. Itu adalah klaim mereka. Aku baru saja mengontak filsuf Stephen Low, dan ini adalah salah satu topik yang kami angkat di sini ya. Tapi sebelum mendengarkan jawaban dia atas klaim kejahatan membuktikan Tuhan, evil proves God, aku mau sedikit ngomongin soal ini ya. So, untuk mengatakan bahwa dalam dunia ateistik itu tidak ada objective morality, itu tuh buat aku adalah klaim yang tidak tepat ya. Kenapa? Karena klaim bahwa objective morality itu ada hanya jika ada Tuhan. Artinya kalau tidak ada Tuhan, maka tidak ada tuh yang namanya objective morality. Itu tuh masih jadi perdebatan. Yes, memang ada beberapa ateis ya, macam Nietzsche, macam J.L. Mackie, Michael Ruse, bahkan Richard Dawkins, itu kelihatannya nihilis semua ya. Mereka semua itu tidak percaya bahwa ada loh moralitas yang objektif gitu. Tapi masalahnya teman-teman, tidak semua ateis itu berpandangan nihilis. Tidak semua ateis itu berpandangan subjektivis atau cultural relativis mengenai moralitas. Ada kok teman-teman yang memandang bahwa objektif morality itu ada tanpa mesti meyakini keberadaan Tuhan, tanpa mesti mendasarkan objektif moralitas itu sama Tuhan. Ada loh beberapa filsuf yang kayak gitu. Contohnya itu adalah Shapa Landau yang pernah tampil juga di channel saya. Ada Mike Hume dan seperti Eric Willenberg gitu loh, yang pernah debat sama William Lane Craig. Jika moralitas itu objektif, maka aku tuh yakin banget bahwa yang menjadikan moralitas itu objektif, itu tuh bukan Tuhan. Ada satu artikel yang sangat baik banget, yang sangat bagus banget dari Mike Hume, yang memberikan kritik tajam gitu loh, untuk pandangan yang mendasarkan moralitas sama Tuhan. Di sana dia tuh mengkritik pandangannya ini ya, William Lane Craig yang divine comment theory atau divine comment theory itu bilang bahwa kebaikan itu adalah Tuhan gitu. That God is good. Kebaikan itu adalah Tuhan itu sendiri. Dan dalam ketiadaan Tuhan, in the absence of God, itu tuh nggak ada kebaikan. Itu nggak ada baik, itu nggak ada jahat dalam ketiadaan Tuhan. Nah, bagaimana kita bisa mengkritik pandangan seperti itu? Aku sangat merekomendasikan teman-teman untuk membaca artikel dari Mike Hume. Tetapi kalaupun ternyata moralitas objektif itu tidak ada gitu. Kalaupun misalkan yang namanya baik dan jahat itu ternyata tidak ada, ternyata itu subjektif atau ternyata itu relatif gitu loh, nihil gitu misalkan. Apakah seorang ateis itu tetap bisa ngomongin kejahatan? Apakah seorang naturalis bisa tetap ngomongin kejahatan in the absence of God, dalam ketiadaan Tuhan gitu? Bisa nggak? Nah, jawaban simpelnya bisa. Jawaban lebih lengkapnya, mari kita tonton jawaban dari Stephen Low. In the atheistic world, in the naturalistic world, we cannot make moral judgment. So we cannot say that there is evil objectively. In order to make the case for the problem of evil, to say that something is evil, you need God. So that's why, like William Lane Craig, you debated him, said that evil proves God. How do you say that?
I was a little bit disappointed in him that he ran that argument, to be honest, because it's such a bad, it's a bad argument. It's very popular on, if you go on the internet, you find YouTubers running this argument. It's kind of Christian apologetics 101 style argument that might convince lay people. But actually, if you think about it for 5 minutes, it doesn't really work. And I was disappointed that he ran it. And in fact, once I pointed out the problem with it, he dropped it immediately and he didn't come back to it.
Professor Craig suggested, and indeed suggested in his opening speech, that the existence of evil proves God. It's a popular move. I mean, not taken terribly seriously in philosophical circles, but more widely, you do find this on the internet. You find people saying this. They think, this is a good persuasive argument.
So the problem with that as a response is that the problem of evil doesn't require that the person running it believe in any kind of objective morality. You can be a moral nihilist and run the problem of evil. What the problem of evil is pointing out is that there's a great deal of pain and suffering.
Yeah.
And there's a great deal of people doing horrendous things to each other. But the atheist critic might say, but I don't want to call that evil. And in fact, I don't even want to call it bad because I just put aside all of those kind of labels. But you, the Christian or the Jew or the Muslim, you are using these concepts and you say that your God is good, if that's what they say. And now I want you to explain why a good God, which is what you claim to believe in, would unleash such horror and pain and suffering and allow such morally, as on your view, morally outrageous things to happen. So it's what the atheist critic is doing is pointing out an internal problem for the theist.
Mungkin teman-teman akan mencoba untuk menyanggah Stephen Low dengan bilang bahwa, tapi kan dalam keyakinan kami, Tuhan itu by definition adalah kebaikan gitu loh. Jadi apapun yang dilakukan oleh Tuhan, maka itu adalah kebaikan. Meskipun kita sebagai manusia, kita melihatnya kejahatan gitu loh. Tapi Tuhan, apapun yang dilakukan Tuhan, itu adalah baik. Karena God, by definition, is good. Dalam perbincangan aku bersama Stephen Low, aku juga ngomongin hal yang sama. Dan ini jawaban Stephen Low untuk bantahan tersebut.
The concept of good is now being shifted to mean something other than what it normally means. It's now being used to mean something like whatever God does.
Yeah.
Yeah. So by definition, if God did it, it's good.
Yes.
Yeah. And so there is no problem of evil because no matter how much pain and suffering and moral depravity we might see in the world, it's all good because it all flows from God. There's no problem at all. It's all good. There we go.
So there's no evil at all. It's all good.
There is no evil. Yeah, it's all good. So we've basically now just changed the meaning of good in order to, in order to rescue God. And now we have the problem that, well, now, if that's what you mean by good, then it doesn't really matter how horrific a hellscape we inhabit. It could be way, way worse. It's all great. It's all good. That's what you're going to have to accept. And that just seems, first of all, that just seems to me absurd. And secondly, it means that, well, if that's what good means as applied to God, then I want to know why I should be grateful and should worship a God who tortures children for fun, even though it's good. Why is that kind of goodness something that I should admire, worship, show gratitude towards, and so on, which is what religious people tell us we should do. So they just seem to be undermining their own kind of religious convictions at this point.
Pada titik ini, mungkin teman-teman akan mencoba untuk menyanggah Stephen Low dengan bilang, manusia itu kan terbatas. Mungkin memang ada beberapa perintah Tuhan yang dinilai manusia itu jahat. Tapi itu tetap baik. Karena Tuhan pasti ada alasannya mengizinkan dalam tanda kutip kejahatan itu gitu. Hanya karena kita tidak bisa melihat alasan di balik itu, bukan berarti alasan itu tidak ada kan? Well, yes, aku juga mempertanyakan itu pada Stephen Law, dan ini jawaban dia. And some people try to answer that problem of animal pain by leaning to skeptical theism that just because we cannot see that there is no reason, it doesn't mean that there is no reason. So,
Yeah.
yes, I mean, we just can't see it. So, how do you reply to that skeptical theism?
Well, I have a lot more time for that kind of appeal to mystery and mysterious reasons than the sort of simple, oh, God works in mysterious ways kind of response, which you often hear. So if you're in a court case, for example, and there's the accused in the dock, and a huge amount of evidence has been put forward that the accused is not a good person, is indeed guilty of the crime of which they're accused. If the defense lawyer says, yeah, but in some mysterious way, it's possible that, you have to admit it's possible that the CIA have somehow put all of this evidence together to frame my client. You can't be absolutely sure that there is no such plot to frame them. So you cannot find them guilty. As a defense of the accused, that's just terrible and no one's going to accept it. The mere fact that it's possible that there is some reason back there doesn't mean, which it is in every court case. It's always possible that the accused is innocent, but that doesn't mean that we can't prove beyond reasonable doubt that they're guilty. And it seems to me that we can establish beyond reasonable doubt that, you know, if there is a deity back there, he's not all good on the basis of much the same kind of evidence. So that sort of appeal to mysterious reasons is rubbish, but that's not what the skeptical theist is doing. The skeptical theist is doing something a bit more sophisticated. They're saying, well, you need to remember that actually we are very limited in our abilities. Take sight, for example. If you look into a garage from the outside, you know, if there's an elephant in there, you're going to see it because our eyesight is good enough to detect elephants. So if you can't see an elephant, it's reasonable to believe there's no elephant there. But if you can't see an insect looking in from the outside, it doesn't follow that there's no insect there. Yeah. It's not reasonable for you to conclude that there's no insect there. There could easily be an insect there because your perceptual abilities are just not sufficiently good enough to detect insects that might be back there somewhere in the shadows. So similarly then, says the skeptical theist, those are bad, if you like, no-seeum inferences, the one involving the insects. So the atheist is running a bad no-thinkum, if you like, inference, going from, I can't think of a reason why God would do all of this terrible stuff, to, so there probably isn't a reason there. And, aha, says the skeptic, see, you're the skeptical theist, you're assuming that you have the ability to detect such reasons, that if they were there, that you would probably know about them. And of course, you can't assume that at all. There could easily be reasons beyond our ken that explain the evils. And now the point is not just that it's possible that the reasons are back there. The point is that for all we know, they're back there. We can't assign a low probability to there being such reasons back there somewhere for God to allow all of the evils. So that's a much more sophisticated appeal to mystery, if you like. And it's quite popular in some theistic circles. Not all theistic circles. I mean, there are plenty of philosophers of religion that don't like skeptical theism. So Richard Swinburne, for example, doesn't sign up to it. But other philosophers of religion do lean towards it. I mean, Alvin Plantinga, for example, seems to quite like it. Stephen Wextra is very much associated with it. Or Wextra, I'm never quite sure how to pronounce his name. Anyway, so that's the skeptical theist position. And what's interesting about it is that rather than coming up with the reasons for the evil, which is what the Theodicy builder does, you instead can say that, well, even if I can't come up with the reasons, that doesn't mean that the reasons aren't back there somewhere. Just because I can't think of them doesn't mean that they're not there. And that means that you can't then know that there are any gratuitous evils for which there is no God-justifying reason. For all you know, there's a reason for every last one of them. Now that is that's interesting and worth taking seriously, and I do. So I've published papers on skeptical theism. First thing to note, of course, is that it works just as well for an evil God as a good God. There could easily be evil reasons for the goods that we see in the world. And so the goods that we see, love and rainbows and cheesecake and puppies and laughter, and doesn't matter how much good you see, for all you know, there's an evil reason for every last one of those goods. You have to accept that too.
Yes.
If you're a theist. And so you can't run the evidential problem of good against an evil God. It immunizes both God beliefs so far as that kind of evidence is concerned. It's equally effective. Now, some skeptical theists will say, okay, will bite the bullet and say, yeah, okay, that's true. And in fact, that is what William Lane Craig did, I seem to remember, in our debate. And I think he took that line having had a conversation with a well-known skeptical theist. So I've not been misled. It would be the right thing to do. It's going to get you in less trouble. So really then what I would need to do is to point out not just that this works just as well for an evil God, but also point out that there are problems with skeptical theism, which there are.
You're really right that it can go the other way. Just because we can see that there is a good reason doesn't mean that there is a good reason. But we can say that to the evil God, maybe there are an evil reason. But okay, let's talk about the evil God challenge.
Maybe, for all we know.
Itulah teman-teman jawaban dari Stephen Low untuk klaim kejahatan membuktikan Tuhan. Mungkin di sini teman-teman bingung ya, maksudnya Tuhan yang jahat atau evil God challenge yang tadi disebutin Stephen itu apa sih? Nah, aku jelasin dikit ya. Jadi, Stephen Low itu pernah bikin paper, judulnya Evil God Challenge. Nah, di sana dia itu nyuruh kita untuk membayangkan bahwa ada Tuhan yang jahat gitu loh. Dan tentu aja, kita sebagai orang beriman, kita akan menolak keberadaan Tuhan jahat itu dengan menunjuk keberadaan kebaikan di dunia kita gitu loh. Kita bilang bahwa, nggak mungkin Tuhan itu jahat toh, dunia kita penuh dengan kebaikan gitu. Nah, di sini bagusnya paper ini ya, Stephen Low itu tuh nunjukin bahwa teodisi yang orang pakai untuk membantah pengaruh evil, seperti misalkan soul-making theodicy atau free will, kehendak bebas, itu tuh juga bisa dipakai penganut Tuhan yang jahat gitu loh, untuk membantah the problem of good, untuk membantah adanya kebaikan-kebaikan yang tadi gitu loh. Jadi Tuhan yang jahat, hipotesis Tuhan yang jahat dengan keberadaan kebaikan itu tuh masih kompatibel dengan kita membalikan teodisi itu gitu loh. Nah, di paper ini tuh intinya adalah jika kita bisa membuang hipotesis Tuhan jahat karena itu unreasonable, maka dengan alasan yang sama, kata Stephen Low, kita juga bisa membuang hipotesis Tuhan yang baik gitu loh. Ini kalau Tuhan jahat ini tidak masuk akal dan sebagainya, ya kamu juga mesti membuang hipotesis Tuhan yang baik gitu loh. Nah, sebetulnya di podcast bersama Stephen Low, aku juga melemparkan beberapa objection ya untuk Evil God Challenge dia gitu loh. Karena aku juga nggak sepenuhnya, meskipun aku suka dengan Evil God dia, aku juga tidak sepenuhnya setuju dengan Evil God Challenge dia gitu. Makanya aku melemparkan beberapa objection. Some people will not reject an evil God based on good that we see, but based on the improbability of the evil God. So I think, how do you say to the reply that that good God hypothesis is simpler than an evil God? Maybe they say something like, in ontological argument and certainly that God is the greatest conceivable being. God by definition is good, so God cannot be evil. Or they say something like, God is the greatest conceivable being. That is simpler than saying God is greatest conceivable being and it is evil. So what do you say to that objection?
Well,
nah, tapi soal evil God itu tuh adalah bahasan yang berbeda ya. Jadi aku nggak bakal bahas di sini. Di sini aku cuman mengadres klaim kejahatan doang tuh. Klaim bahwa kejahatan membuktikan Tuhan. Ya, aku cuma membahas itu doang. Untuk evil God mungkin aku akan mencoba membahas itu kapan-kapan ya. Anyway, makasih teman-teman udah nonton dan selamat malam.
I think that of all of the sort of podcast type interviews I've done, and I've done many, you've been the most intelligent and incisive
You.
conversation partner. Yeah, so really good. So